Hi, my name is Gibson, and I'm the creator of the Personal Development School. This is your daily breakthrough video, and in this video, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about should your partner know your past? So this is a comment and a conversation I've seen come up in many different forms, in questions, in comments on YouTube, emails that we receive, all sorts of different things. And I wanted to talk about this and really the magnitude of how we decide to make a decision around this topic, and sort of the effects of like what happens if we don't share our past, we don't open up with somebody that we're in a primary attachment figure relationship with. So the short answer to the question is yes, they should. But there's intricacies. It doesn't mean like on your first date, you sit down and say, these are all the things in my past that I feel insecure about or ashamed of, or things like that. There can be a lot more to it than that. But I want to talk about why this matters. So the first thing is, if you don't open up about your past, you are never going to feel properly loved, accepted, and seen as you. And this is because you're not being your true self. You're not like owning your own parts from the past and then sharing them with somebody else. So if you are covering up and hiding parts of yourself, then you're setting the tone in your relationship to only ever feel conditionally loved. You are conditionally loving yourself. You're making parts of yourself not worthy, splitting them off, hiding them. And then you're not feeling loved as your whole self with your flaws, weaknesses, inadequacies, mistakes, which are part of us as human beings. Like, we are not here to be perfect. We're not here to like never make a mistake. We're here to have that stuff. That's how we learn and grow and develop. And like, that's such an important part of ourselves as human beings. And if we can't own and accept that within ourselves, then we're going to have a lot of difficulty feeling truly loved and seen and heard and understood by others, because we're not giving them all the information to even allow them to let us feel that way. And vulnerability is such a key ingredient to feeling truly loved and connected to. And if we're doing that, usually people subconsciously pick up on little incongruencies in relationships. And it can also lead to trust issues or challenges. It can lead to people sometimes feeling like, oh, you're too perfect and you don't show your flaws or have any flaws. And then somebody on the receiving end being like, okay, so then I guess I have to pressure myself to be perfect and flawless. It just creates a whole bunch of emotional disconnects. It sets the tone to only ever really be feeling like love is about infatuation instead of depth of connection. And it definitely can set the grounds for like trust issues and challenges later on in relationships. And what I want to share as well is that when you're hiding part of yourself, no matter what your attachment style is, it's a form of emotional unavailability. I often see more anxious leaning individuals hide themselves because they're afraid that they'll be unworthy or not good enough for a relationship. They don't want to show their flaws or talk about what's going on in their life because they're afraid of losing somebody. But when you do those things, that's your own version of being emotionally unavailable, right? You're like not accepting enough of yourself to have the full emotional availability to show yourself, to like show up as yourself and in your truth. And again, that can only really create harm to relationships long term. And then the DA, or more avoidant leaning, even FAs, they feel shame around some of this stuff. They feel shame around their flaws, inadequacies, shame around vulnerability for DAs. And so they hide for those reasons, because they're actually hiding to try to avoid or prevent feelings of shame. And again, like, all this does is create invisible walls, a disconnect, and it can make somebody feel like the bond isn't as deep in a relationship as we'd like it to be in order to feel safe and in harmony with each other. So we have different versions of this stuff that occurs between different attachment styles. But when you do open up, you do have these conversations, it doesn't have to be something that like on the first date, you tell somebody and you divulge all the things that you're most afraid of. It's something that takes place over time. The more you get to know somebody, the more comfortable you become, the more you share little bits and pieces here and there, and the more vulnerable we become. Like, this work is ideally done in the dating, the honeymoon, the power struggle stage, where we open up, we share our fears, we share our weaknesses, our flaws, we share our needs. We have these pieces of conversation. And if we have a past that we're not proud of in some way, that's okay. Like, people make mistakes, and I can't share how important enough. I can't like stress how important it is to be able to recognize, like, people hurt and people make mistakes and have flaws largely just because of trauma. Like, when you're in a traumatized state, you're more likely to make poor decisions and choices because you're in fight or flight. You're not thinking from your prefrontal cortex in the same way. You're more in like reptilian brain mode and like, attack defense mode. And so we're going to do things when we're not proud of if we were hurt in the past. And that doesn't make you lesser of a person. That makes you somebody who went through something that deserves love, attention, and healing, and that deserves to be nurtured through that experience. And the moment we make in ourselves our mistakes out to be something other than that, then it creates this sort of like snowball of pain where we don't accept ourselves, we judge ourselves, and we put ourselves down. And then we're more likely to stay stuck in that trauma, and we're less likely to move towards a solution and heal and grow and do all the things that we want to do as people. And so we have to accept ourselves, and we have to be willing to share our flaws with other people, and share where they came from and why some of these different things happened. And the more accepting we are of ourselves, usually the more acceptance we're going to see from other people at the same time, right? The more we hide and don't share, the more people are suspicious, and they can tell that we're sort of hiding and not sharing. And so it's just really important to be able to open up about that in a time that works for you, on a timeline that feels safe for you. It doesn't have to be under pressure. It can be little tiny pieces of exposure work where you share little things about yourself. But it is important to set that intention in a relationship. And if you want to do a deeper dive into some of the core fears that we can have around opening up, around feeling shame, a really fantastic course to dive into, because this kind of a lot to do with trust, is overcoming broken trust and jealousy. I always make mistakes on the names of the courses because our team renames them. I think it's repairing broken trust and overcoming jealousy. But you can check it out for free for 7 days. It has a lot to do with reprogramming your internal trust baseline and just understanding where some of your pain points came from, how to resolve that inner feeling of trauma and distrust in the relationship to self, and those feelings of shame that kind of make us want to hide. And the more we heal that stuff in the relationship to ourselves, the more we can build that trust and investing in trusting other people around us. So again, I share this a lot on here. You can get through most of a course, if not all of it, in 7 days. So check it out, use the resources, use the tools. And again, the link to the 7-day free trial is below, and you can search that course, and it's a great place to begin if this is something you're facing. So thank you again so much for being here and for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next video.